Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the money in your wallet has lost most of its value overnight. Your savings are shrinking. Prices are rising. Businesses are panicking. Now imagine one country that almost never faces this problem. A country that can print money, borrow trillions of dollars, and still remain the world's economic superpower. That country is the United States. But here's the real question. Why does the entire world trust the US dollar? Why do governments keep trillions of dollars in reserve? Why is oil traded in dollars? Why do international businesses choose the dollar instead of their own currencies? And what would happen if one day the US dollar lost its dominance? The answers go back more than 80 years, to a world devastated by war, a historic agreement between nations, and decisions that changed the global economy forever. This isn't just the story of a currency. It's the story of power, trust, politics, and the world's financial system. Let's decode the history behind the world's most powerful currency. In 1944, World War II was still raging. Much of Europe lay in ruins. Many countries had weak economies and unstable currencies. The United States, however, emerged with a strong industrial base and large gold reserves. Representatives from dozens of countries met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to design a new international monetary system. They agreed that many currencies would be linked to the US dollar, and the dollar itself would be linked to gold at a fixed rate. This decision made the dollar the foundation of global finance. At first, the system worked remarkably well. Countries trusted the US dollar because it wasn't just paper. Every single dollar was backed by gold. The United States promised the world that any central bank could exchange 35 US dollars for 1 ounce of gold. This promise created something priceless: trust. Governments felt secure. Businesses felt confident. International trade expanded faster than ever before. For the first time in modern history, much of the world shared one common financial anchor: the US dollar. As global trade grew, countries needed more dollars. They stored them in their central banks. They used them to buy goods, to repay debts, and to trade across continents. The dollar was no longer just America's currency. It had become the world's currency. But there was a problem. As years passed, the United States started spending more money. Massive government programs, expensive military operations, and one costly conflict, the Vietnam War. To pay these bills, America printed more and more dollars. Soon, there were far more dollars than the gold stored inside American vaults. The balance was beginning to break. Some countries started asking a dangerous question: what if America doesn't have enough gold? Among them, France became especially skeptical. Its president, Charles de Gaulle, believed the United States was enjoying an unfair advantage. France began exchanging its dollars for physical gold. Other nations started thinking the same way. America's gold reserves began shrinking. Confidence started fading. The entire global financial system was approaching its biggest crisis since World War II. And in 1971, one decision by a single president would change the world's economy forever. That president was Richard Nixon. And what happened next shocked the entire world. The year was 1971. The pressure on the United States had reached its limit. Countries around the world were demanding gold in exchange for their dollars. America's gold reserves were disappearing fast. If this continued, the United States could lose its financial dominance forever. Then, on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon made one of the most controversial decisions in modern economic history. He announced that the United States would no longer exchange dollars for gold. The gold standard was over. For the first time, the world's most important currency was no longer backed by gold. Many economists believed the dollar would collapse. They expected governments to abandon the dollar. Some even predicted a global financial disaster. But something unexpected happened. The dollar survived. In fact, it became even stronger. How? If the dollar was no longer backed by gold, why did the world continue trusting it? The answer wasn't hidden in a bank. It was hidden in oil during the early 1970s. Oil had become the world's most valuable resource. Every country needed it. Factories needed it. Cars needed it. Airplanes needed it. Entire economies depended on oil. The United States realized if oil could be linked to the dollar, then the world would always need dollars. In 1974, America reached a historic agreement with Saudi Arabia. The deal was simple. Saudi Arabia would sell its oil only in US dollars. In return, the United States would provide military protection and security support. Soon, other major oil-producing nations followed the same model. A new system was born, the petrodollar system. Now, if Japan wanted oil, it first needed US dollars. If Germany wanted oil, it needed US dollars. If India, Brazil, or South Korea wanted oil, they also needed US dollars. This created a constant global demand for the American currency. The dollar was no longer backed by gold. It was backed by global demand. Every barrel of oil sold strengthened the dollar. Every international trade deal increased its influence, and every country began storing billions, even trillions of dollars inside their central banks. The US dollar had transformed from a national currency into the backbone of the global economy. But as America's financial power grew, a new question emerged. Could any country challenge the dollar's dominance? Or was the dollar too powerful to ever be replaced? Today, more than 50 years after the gold standard ended, the US dollar still dominates the global economy. But why? The answer lies in trust, trade, and the global financial system. Every day, millions of businesses buy and sell products across borders, from oil to airplanes, from smartphones to wheat. A large share of international trade is still priced in US dollars. This means even countries that don't trade directly with America often need dollars to trade with each other. Central banks also hold massive reserves in US dollars. These reserves help stabilize their own currencies during economic crises. Another reason is the market for US Treasury bonds. Many governments and financial institutions invest in them because they are considered among the safest assets in the world. The dollar is also deeply connected to the global banking system. International payments, investments, and financial transactions often rely on systems where the dollar plays a central role. Over decades, this created a powerful network effect. The more people used the dollar, the more valuable it became. And the more valuable it became, the more people wanted to use it. Replacing such a system is not easy, because it requires not just another currency, but another financial system, trusted by the entire world.
In recent years, the world has started asking a difficult question: can the US dollar be replaced? China has expanded the use of its currency in international trade. The euro is widely used across Europe. Some countries have signed agreements to trade using their own currencies. Groups like BRICS have also discussed reducing dependence on the US dollar. These developments have attracted global attention, but replacing the dollar is far more difficult than many people imagine. A global reserve currency needs more than economic strength. It requires stable institutions, deep financial markets, strong legal systems, global confidence, and decades of international trust. Today, the United States still has advantages that no other country fully matches. That doesn't mean the dollar's position will never change. History shows every great empire eventually faces new challenges. The future will depend on economic policies, global politics, innovation, and international cooperation. The question is no longer whether change is possible. The real question is how long it will take. The story of the US dollar is not just about money. It is the story of war, gold, oil, politics, and global trust. A single currency managed to shape international trade, financial markets, and the modern economy. For more than 80 years, the dollar has remained at the center of the global financial system. Whether that continues for another decade or another century, no one can say with certainty. But one thing is clear: understanding the dollar means understanding how the modern world works. And sometimes, the greatest power isn't carried by armies or weapons. It's carried by the currency the world chooses to trust. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to History Decoded and join us as we uncover the stories that shaped our world. See you in the next documentary.